Hey guys, welcome to another video. So in this video, what I'll be going through with you guys is how to actually create a content outline. And if you haven't watched the previous video about how to research content, I think you have to do that first, because what we need to do is we basically need to take whatever that we have researched and then put it in this content outline. And then we can either, follow this content outline and write the content ourselves, or you can pass it to a writer, depending on how your arrangements is like. But in this video, I'll break down for you how to actually come up with a content outline and make sure that, the content that you're producing gets the kind of results that you want in terms of traffic and also in terms of conversions. So let's get started. So the first things first, it's do remember that, while all of these are kind of like a framework, you always want to change the framework as and when it's required, because sometimes, when Google is going through some updates, they introduce new stuff. Now with AI coming out, there's a lot of new stuff going on. So you always want to refine your framework so it's always up to date, because whatever that works now or whatever that worked, in the past, like 10 or 20 years ago, may not work or it's not working now. And similarly, whatever that might be working now, it will not work exactly 100%, maybe 1 year or 2 years or 5 years down the road. So do remember, this is just a framework for you to get started on. Refine the framework based off what it's needed, when when are you applying this on, depending on what changes and stuff like that. So let's get started. The first things first is keyword cluster. So this keyword cluster, usually what you want to do is you want to fill up all the secondary keywords and the primary keyword in your the keyword research, from your keyword research. So again, I'm going to use the previous examples just because it's more relevant. So in the previous examples, we're using Zumba classes, Zumba lessons, and Zumba workouts, right? So assuming the keyword here is Zumba classes. Now I'm using phrase. This is very simple to do. You can go and recreate this in Google Docs if you want. If not, you can use phrase, whatever. You can use Notion, but whatever tool that you decide to use, this is the framework that you can basically copy and adopt. Okay, so the first things first is keyword cluster. So assuming the keywords that we are going after, it's, let's say, for example, the main keyword is Zumba classes, right? So the main keyword is Zumba classes. In this case, if there are other keywords that you have found in your secondary keywords list when you're doing the keyword research, you can include them in here, and this will help you make sure that whenever you're coming out with headers, such as your header 2s and header 3s and header 4s, as long as if a keyword makes sense, you can actually include them as a potential header. So for example, if let's say this is my main keyword and then these two are my secondary keywords, for example, right? So what I can do is within the content later on, within the outline, which we actually get to, we can make sure that, within the secondary or within like your different header 2s and header 3s, you can include all of this in here. Now, do note that sometimes the intention of the word is very similar. So in this case, like for example, Zumba classes, Zumba lessons, they almost mean the same thing. So if they have the same meaning, obviously you cannot create Zumba classes, Zumba lessons as different headers, because it's not going to be useful from a user's point of view, right? But you just want to have this in here, because when you're actually going through the potential headers, this will help you or give you a rough guideline of what you should be including inside, right? So keyword headers, and a lot of these things that I'm going to be going through with you here, some of these things are basically an importing of whatever research that you've done previously. You're just importing it in here. And then later on, when you're going through the content outline, you can just refer it here, and it will help you craft a outline with all the references here. So you don't have to look for all this information all over the place. Okay, so keyword clusters over here. And then the people also ask section. So people also ask section is basically, it allows you to create a FAQ section, or at least help you to understand what questions do users have when they are searching around the keyword that you're trying to target. So for example, Zumba classes, when you go to Google, and you type in Zumba classes, for example. Okay. And these are all the people also are. So this allows you to again try to gauge what your potential users, what they are thinking about when they are searching for Zumba classes, right? So you are in the same headspace, or at least trying to guess the headspace they are in when they're searching for Zumba classes, because these usually are the most popular questions that people ask when searching for this keyword. So what you want to do is you want to basically go down and you want to record this down somewhere, right? So this is basically like kind of like the 80-20. So if there's 10 questions or there's a lot of questions for you to answer for this particular topic, these are the questions that you should be answering first because they are popular, right? So are Zumba classes good for losing weight? Are Zumba classes a good workout? Zumba yoga is better, or can you do Zumba as a beginner? So one thing that you have to take note is, again, sometimes people, the questions that are in the people also ask section, right? They don't have some questions are weird, right? So for example, if you see a question that is not really applicable, right, then remove those out, because there's no point for you to have this in here just because Google is showing up, right? So use a little bit of common sense here. And also sometimes two separate FAQs, two separate questions can mean the same, can have the same context. So for example, are Zumba classes good for losing weight? And then, are Zumba lessons good for losing weight, right? So imagine if the next question is, are Zumba lessons good for losing weight? They essentially are the same exact thing. So you can remove one of those and just keep one, because in your FAQ, you wouldn't be answering these two questions because they basically are the same question, just worded or phrased differently, right? So clean this up if you see anything that's irrelevant, and don't just copy and paste and then have it in your content, because that's not going to make any sense. So use a little bit of common sense, clean things up a little bit. In this case, for example, the 4 questions that we have, it's all different. Asking different types of questions, right? So are Zumba classes good for losing weight? Are Zumba classes a good workout? So they're kind of like they're kind of different in the sense that, the nuance of the question is very different, right? It's Zumba or yoga are better for weight loss, and can you do Zumba as a beginner? Very different types of questions. So I want to keep all this in here. Okay, and also this gives you a rough understanding of what users are thinking about when they are searching for Zumba classes, right? It seems that a lot of people are not sure whether Zumba classes are the best for losing weight. And also it gives you an idea that when people are searching for Zumba classes, they are at a point where they're trying to lose weight, because you can see they are searching for, is this the best weight loss option, right? And also they're maybe considering other types or other forms of weight loss, other forms of exercises or activities for weight loss, because you can see, is Zumba or yoga better for weight loss? So this is some of the questions or some of the things that your potential users might be thinking about. And it's good to have this, because when you're writing the content or when you're passing this piece of information to your content writer, the better they understand what your users are really thinking about, which journey they are in terms of the, I forget what is it called, but the value chain, right, where they are most aware and things like that, right? So it allows you to be at a better, it allows you to get a clearer understanding of what your users are thinking about, what kind of questions they may potentially have, and what doubts do they have. So in this case, I can see that there's a lot of doubt whether is Zumba the best for losing weight, right? Because it seems like they want to lose weight, but they are not sure whether Zumba is the activity to help them to do that. So in this case, if you translate that to a content level angle, you need to make sure that within your piece of content, it answers that question, because these are the questions that your potential users are, they have without them directly asking you, right? And also, it seems like a lot of them are beginners, because you can see, can you do Zumba as a beginner? They are not sure if if they are just starting out, will Zumba be a very good fit for them, because they are not sure, is this do you need to have like at a certain level of fitness for you to do this, or do you need to be very advanced? Do you need to learn dance before you can do Zumba? So all these type of questions are really important for you to get a sense of, essentially what your users are thinking about when they are searching for this particular topic. Okay, so this is the reason why people also ask section is very important. And it's not just copying and pasting all the FAQs or all the questions in here. It's really understanding why are these questions being asked a lot. And this goes to understanding what your users are really, really thinking about. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. And the next thing is Google suggestion. So Google suggestions are basically, it's a little bit different from people also ask, where it gives you an idea of, again, we're trying to understand what the users are really looking at or looking for, what type of doubts they have, and this is for us to better craft a content that is suitable for them. And how you can find Google suggestion is actually very simple. Go over to Zumba classes. Right? So essentially, I'm going to go back here. And if you type in Zumba classes, these are the type of suggestions that people is suggesting to you, right? So Zumba classes near me. So it seems like people, when they're searching for Zumba classes, they want to find somewhere near them. They're looking for specifically Zumba classes in Singapore and, in these areas, right? Or for beginners. And then what you can do is you can just type in a space bar, and then this gives you a further understanding. Again, you want to make sure that you're using your common sense to clean, to remove anything that is not applicable. And, when it comes to really creating content that gets you traffic, it's not so much about, copying and pasting, because some form of analysis and some form of thinking needs to be involved. And that's why it's never a copy and paste and then just ship things off, because that will that's a very in wildlife, I think, a very lazy way to do things. You need to make sure that you're analyzing and you're thinking a little bit here. So for example, Zumba classes near me, it seems like people are searching for Zumba classes that's nearby them, and specifically like areas, and this is backed up by different areas, right? You can see this is an area in Singapore, this is another area, and it's also for beginners, right? So what I usually do is, if all this makes sense, what I usually do is I just screenshot this, right? And I just basically paste it in here, because like I mentioned, all these are considered like quick access for you to get an idea of what your users are really searching for without going to Google, typing it in, and then see what is it. And then again, just make sure that you're removing all those that's not required. So if let's say there's not a lot of relevant queries here, you can just manually type in, right, the ones that make sense, and you don't have to do the screenshot similar to what I did. Right. So this is what your audience are interested in. So again, you just want to basically do this kind of research to understand what your users really want. So the next phase here, so this is usually more from a landing page or a product page. So if this keyword or if this content outline you're creating is basically for a product type page or a landing type page, then this is really useful because it allows you to, a little bit to do with copy. It allows you to write copy or have copy on your page that it's using your customer's language, right? And there's no better place than knowing what language they use, other than going to reviews and testimonials that they have personally left. So this is a really, really good point. We usually do this for product pages, landing pages, informational type of pages. You can use this, but I find it very difficult to use because usually if it's an information type of content, we usually want to help the users, not so much about converting them, but you can use them as your call to action. So if within your informational type of content, you want to have a specific call to action, then this section here will be very useful for you to think of copy that you can use within that call to action. So how do you find this? Actually very simple. In this case, what we're trying to look for, you don't have to fill up all of this. You can if you want to, but you just basically have to look for either pains or the benefits, right? So this in layman's terms is just basically good reviews or bad reviews. Right, so let me show you an example. So in this case, let's say this is the specific keyword that I'm going after, right? So what you want to do is you want to go to Zumba classes and you just want to take a look at some of your competitors, right? So you can see your competitors here. So I'm going to open this up. Okay, and what you want to do is you want to go over to the review section. Okay, so where's the review section? So over here, okay, and you can go to the lowest or highest, right? So you go to lowest rating, and then what you want to do is you just want to basically look through. So it seems like they don't have a lot of low reviews, so good for them. So in this case, I'm just going to look for the benefits, right? So again, what you're trying to pick out is you know, what do people specifically look for when they are looking, or when they went through like a Zumba class, for example. So let's say in this case, challenging fitness, creative and dedicated. Every lesson is interesting, blah, blah, blah. Super fun and time flies, right? So it seems like it's a very, very fun and interesting way to work out. You know, you can work out and at the same time have fun, right? So essentially, these are the type of things that you're looking for, right? So I've been attending Zumba almost 3 years. I love all their classes, particularly their dance video classes such as Zumba. Attending body training, not only fun, they help me to lose weight. Yeah, so you can see these classes. So this is definitely a benefit here, right? So I just want to write this down. Not only fun, help to lose weight, increase flexibility, and tone my muscles, right? And again, these are very, very personal, because these are directly left by what would be your potential customers, right? So instructors are friendly, dedicated. You just want to pick out the specific benefits. Let's see. I love this studio. It's my go-to spot for breakfast, boogie, stress relieving. Fun. So a lot of these common things are fun, right? It's very fun. Okay, so happy mood and the rest of my days become seamless. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's anything that stands out. Been a member for 8 fun years, it seems like. Blah, blah, blah. I like the so much value for money. Okay. Fun. You can see a lot of the common themes are fun, right? It's very fun. Super friendly, make you feel at home right away. Come down and give it a try. Dedicated to we'll be back. Love the class dynamics. Good and fun workout, right? Still enjoying. So a lot of these are the same thing happening over again. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to pick out if there's anything and anything that is slightly different, right? But if you don't have it, you know, this is fine, because majority of people, when they are a benefit to your potential customers, is you can see very clearly that it's very fun, right? Fun and losing weight at the same time. Program is effective, able to maintain. Trainers are supportive and friendly. Okay, energy. Yeah, so all these could be potential. You know, your trainers are supportive and friendly. Program is effective. All these could be potential benefits, but I'm not going to fill this out. Just want to show you how you could include this in. Okay, this is for benefits. So obviously, you just want to list down what benefits your potential customers are looking for when they are looking for a Zumba class, right? And in terms of pain, I'm going to see if I can show you an example of pain. So this is similar to the previous ways, but instead we're going to look for lowest rating, right? Music is too loud, right? So for example, needs to improve. Classes seem fun, but the music is too loud. This seems like there's not is. All right, so I found one that is you know, have a little bit of low rating review. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to find out a customer's pain, what is painful for them. So you can see here, attended so many Zumba classes, and you actually want to find people that have actually attended or used the service or product, because then it will be way more relevant and you can get to understand what your customers don't want to have, something that is really painful for them. right? So in this case, you can see attended so many Zumba by far the worst. So only hair shaking from instructor, steps are always the same, boring. Okay, so this is what I definitely want to put it down here, right? This is the customer's pain. Okay, always the same, and I missed out the important part, right? Boring. Okay, so very bad customer service. And then what else can I do? Do not waste your time. Walk up to say sincere and blah blah blah, blah blah blah. And you want to look at reviews that actually have written words from them. Terrible place. All they want is money with no quality, right? So in terms of like this is not really a pain, not as descriptive as this one. So in this case, you can see, right, if you do a call to action, what you can do is, start have fun and lose weight now, right? So this could be a call to action, right? For example, right? Or another type of, copy maybe that you can use will be something like, never a boring class, right? Because you can see this is a pain that an actual customer that went through a lousy Zumba class actually felt. So you want to use their language as much as possible, and you have to basically have this in here. And also you can see here I have a notable quote, right? So notable quotes are basically something that is very, very quotable. In a sense that you can actually plug this into your copy, and you can use it in, like I mentioned, your call to action or within your copy. Okay, some notable quotes are basically things that it's very catchy. Right? So in this case, I didn't find a lot here. For example, this could be like a quotable quote. ZZZ boring could be a quotable quote, right? But in order for me to use a quotable quote, notable quotes, I want to see something that is really, really, it's basically kind of like a copywriting or a copywriter level kind of comment or testimonial. Then I'll include it here because it will be really, really creative and effective if I were to include this within part of the copy, right? So for example, you can include this as a notable quote. And again, what we are trying to do here is we are trying to make sure that we are speaking as much of our customers' language as much as possible, right? So you don't have to fill out all of this. Just have one or two. Sometimes we don't even do this for informational type of content, right? But speak your customer's language. Next thing is awareness level. So by this, what you should already have is if you haven't checked out the previous content research video, you should be checking this out. But you should already have the awareness level as well as the product or service led angle level, right? And you just basically want to copy whatever that you have in here. And essentially what you need to do is basically think of how can you have this content be from a service led angle if your brand or your business is very much a service based business and you're trying to create content, or if you're selling a product or software, then you want to go from a product led angle, right? So again, if you're not sure what is it, basically answering these questions, just picking one. And once you have this ready, you should just basically copy and paste it into here. And if you haven't watched the previous video about how to come up with a product or service led angle, it's already covered in the last video. Similarly, with the awareness level, it's basically trying to allow you to know where your customers is, which stage they are at, and how your content should be structured in a way that speaks directly to them. So a lot of things that you can see, right, is basically trying to understand your customers. It's not so much about, just copy and pasting, following what the competitors are doing. It's a lot about going behind the scenes of really understanding who your target customers are, how they think, what they're thinking about, and how best to create a content that actually solve their problem. right? So again, this is covered in the previous video during the content research phase. So just copy and paste whatever that you have in here. And then I'll move on to the next, which is the Michelin star. So Michelin star, this usually takes a little bit more effort, because the idea of this concept is to make your piece of content a Michelin star piece, right? What makes it so different than your competitors that already are on page 1? So this question usually means that you have to go to an extra mile to think of, either creating a new resource or basically creating something or including something that is not already on the first page of Google, and it is actually something that is usable or useful for your audience, right? So you want to have this in here, and this is all done again as an additional research to understanding what your users are and creating a content that matches exactly what your users are searching for, right? So this is all before the content outline. Now, moving towards the content outline. So the content outline is actually pretty flexible in a sense that we don't really have a content outline that is, header 2, header 3, header 4, this is what you should have. But based off on whatever that we have seen earlier, this will give you an idea of what kind of content outline you should be creating. So first things first is you can see this inverted pyramid of value. We always follow this format. And the reason why is because we want to give users exactly what they want first. And usually this means to say the answer or the TLDR, and then followed by any reasoning and followed by, any supporting or related details. This is how we do it within the agency. And we find it's always it works relatively well. And if your page that you're going after, it's a product page or landing page, it will be more straightforward. But if let's say it's a content, informational type of content, then you always want to have your answer straight up first, followed by how you derive, followed by why you provided that answer or the reasoning behind it, and then followed by all the details or all the research that you have done to support that reasoning, right? So this is the inverted pyramid of value. I first heard it from Authority Hackers, which is really, really awesome. So yeah, it's a really, really good framework to have. So then you want to include in your topic title. So your topic title will always be a H1. And do remember, on every page, there should only be ideally one H1 tag. And this H1 tag will be your topic title that you have created in the content research phase. Okay, so once you have, just paste in your topic title here. Okay, next thing is this is the framework that we follow. Again, this framework, we use it all the time. You can modify it depending on what you want. You can decrease it, you can increase it. But this is usually how we would like to do things. And again, this is just a framework. Change it along the way and use what you can, right? So in terms of opening paragraph, right, do note this is usually more applicable for content, informational type of content, because usually there is an informational, there's an introduction towards the content. For product pages or service pages or landing type of pages, it's not really that applicable. So if you are creating a content for landing pages, for product or services, you can just basically do without the entire thing here. Okay, so for informational type of content, then you want to include this in here. And when I say informational type of content or product type of content, to be honest, use it when it makes sense to you, right? So obviously for product or service type of pages, it doesn't make sense for you to have an introduction. So remove this. For information type of content or for investigational or versus comparison type of content, then if it's useful, then include this in here, right? So again, use common sense depending on when you need it or not. So first things here is always answering the intention of this content, right? So we want to directly answer what do the audience know and what do they not know, right? And the reason why we want to have this in here is because we want to remove as much information that is not required or what we call fluff, right? So we want to have those out of the way. And you can have an understanding of, you can have a better understanding of what you should include in your introduction or not with intention, right? So for example, in this case, right, what do the users know? Okay, and again, you don't have to fill this both up. Most of the time, I either fill what do they know or what do they not know, right? So for example, in this case, I'm just going to do both, right? So what do they know? Okay, users. Okay, what I usually do is I just remove this section and I just type in, right? But in this case, I'm just going to show you an example here. So what do users know? Users already know what Zumba is. They want to find, they already know what Zumba is. They are highly likely looking to lose weight via Zumba, right? So it can be just a simple one sentence or two sentences. Again, I find usually less is more. So you don't have to bombard you don't have to fill in like a full paragraph of intention. And also because we usually work with external writers, so we don't want to confuse them. But we want to have just a simple sentence here, okay? And what do they not know, for example? So they do not know if Zumba is the best form of activity for them to lose weight. They might be comparing between other forms of exercise to lose weight, right? It can be just simple as this. One sentence or two sentences is fine. Okay, again, usually if I have one or the other, I want to have both, right? And this is very important because if the writer or whoever that's writing this piece of content, right, they already know, like users already know what Zumba is, right? So they don't have to write, what is Zumba, right? The last thing you want to do on your content is what is Zumba, right? Because users already know what Zumba is all about. So the last thing you want to do is have a paragraph in your content that basically explains what Zumba is, right? Because that's a waste of space because users already know what Zumba is. They are clearly looking for classes, right? So this allows you to remove the fluff and directly answer what users are actually looking for, okay? So that is intention. And then this, as a side note, is just for a reminder to whoever is writing this piece of content to basically answer the question immediately, right? So Zumba is great for losing weight because XXX, things like that, okay? And then this is a hook method that we use. So some hook methods that, we have variations. We don't use all of them. Sometimes we don't even use them at all. But most of the time we just use one, right? So you can either use facts, you can either use fear plus facts, or you can either use funny. Basically, for example, in the year of 2021, the number of businesses that entered the ice cream market was over 25%. So you're basically giving some sort of fact. And again, this is most likely applicable to any informational type of content, right? So another way to hook users in is basically you are using a fact combination with fear, right? So people who eat ice cream regularly have 30% chance of getting tooth decay and weight gain, right? So this is the fear element and this is the fact element, right? And then another approach is funny, right? Don't think of yourself as an overweight person. Think of yourself as a beautiful monkey who loves ice cream, right? So this is a very, very poor example, I think, of a funny example, but you get the idea, right? You want to have some kind of hook method to hook users in your introduction, and you don't have to, again, write a whole paragraph. Just one sentence or two sentences is good enough, right? Sometimes you don't even need to have this, okay? And if you do, just pick one, okay? So that is a hook that will entice the audience to read on, okay? And then you can also give the users some kind of taste of what they're going to learn, right? So you will learn the 7 ways of how to eat ice cream without getting a tooth decay, right? By the end of this article, you're going to learn how to eat ice cream without getting a tooth decay. So these are just some examples. But again, the concept here is you want to tease and give the users a taste of what they're going to learn. Say, for example, point number 9 will show you how we come up with this idea, for example, right? So this is a tease. And then last but not least, you want to have some kind of trust and authority within the first paragraph. And you can see it on top. We ideally want to have like 100 and 200 words. I find that lesser is better because, people don't want to read a whole bunch of like introduction. Like the introduction shouldn't be very long, right? So you should have your answer immediately. It should have some kind of hook or tease. and then it should show why you're an expert, talking about the brand and things like that. So you can refer to any kind of expertise, authority, and unique selling points under your brand that shows you why that you should be, the authority, right? So for example, in this case, let's say this is a informational content about Zumba, right? So I can say, if I'm a Zumba instructor, I can say, if I own the Zumba website, I can say things like, after coaching for 2,000 plus classes, this is my experience and things like that. This is basically just to show why should people read your content, if you are doing kind of research based where you're comparing stuff, right? You can say you've spent I don't know how many hours researching the content, and this is what you found. Okay, so have some kind of trust and authority within here. Okay, and here is it. Do not include links to external paragraphs, external websites in the opening paragraph. And this is for obvious reasons, because we don't want users to click away in the introduction, because the introduction, the main point is to get them to either give them the answer or have them read on the entire content. So we don't want to direct them away to another website when they are just reading our introduction. And then key terms to include here, just basically as a habit, we want to include our main primary keyword here just once. So for example, your keyword, right, should be in the opening paragraph just once. Okay, so this is an introduction, right? And then the next thing will be snippet opportunity. So again, within your research phase, if you find a snippet opportunity, you will have this listed here. All right, you have this in your research phase where if you see if there's any sub opportunity. Now the sub opportunity that you're gonna see most of the time is gonna be featured snippet. So I'm gonna just touch on this. Now, how do you actually have this piece of instruction here for you to rank better on featured snippet? It's it's by going through these steps, which I will show you. So what you want to do is, let's say for example, right, Zumba classes. What is Zumba classes, for example? Okay, so you can see this is a very obvious featured snippet here. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to basically see how many words there are, right? So in this case, you can go over to a word counter, just Google word counter. Okay, let's say word counter. Okay, and you can simply highlight this text here, and you can just copy it here. So it says it's 48 words, right? So this is the number of words you need to have maximum, right? You don't exceed this number of words, right? Or the best is around this number of words. Okay, so this is 48 words, and so what you want to do, right? Is you want to open this up and basically see where this snippet is. Okay, so once you open the page up, you can see this is under a header section here. What can you expect from Zumba classes, right? So again, if I open up Ahrefs here, you can see what can you expect from Zumba classes. So it's under a header 1. So I know the behavior is this piece of text, the 48 number of words, I need to have it under a header 1, or a header 2 actually works fine as well from what we have tested so far. But if you want to have it under header 1, it can as well. So what I want to do is open the first paragraph in 48 words, right? I can have it in 48 words or 50 words. As long as it's not more than 48 words, you're fine, right? So open the first paragraph in 48 words, or you can put within 48 words by explaining what is Zumba classes, right? And begin the first sentence with, so you can see Zumba classes combined, right? So I want to basically have the writer begin with Zumba classes. I can put is or XXX, right? But I want the writer, or if I'm writing the content myself, I want to be able to answer directly without having any fluff. For example, they have what is Zumba, you ask. You can see this is not in the feature snippet, right? This is outside of the feature snippet. So I don't want to start off the paragraph within the 48 words to include this, because it's not useful. For feature snippet to work, you have to directly answer the question straight away. So for example, open the first paragraph within 80 words by explaining what is Zumba classes and begin the first sentence. Start off with straight away answering the first questions as directly as much as possible. So with Zumba classes, XXX, they can answer, right? And sometimes you can see what is highlighted here. Okay, if any terms that are highlighted here, you can include the terms here and should be within these 80 words, right? For example, in this case, if Zumba is highlighted, if classes is highlighted, right? It's telling you what things are bolded. So some of the terms that you want to have included in here is fine. But as long as you're following this, you can also remove this because we use it only when it's applicable. So in this case, you can see it's not really applicable. Nothing is being bolded here. All right, so in this case, I'm going to remove this. Okay, and what I want to do is I want to look at a header structure. So what can you expect from Zumba classes? Well, what I want to do is I want to have this as I can have this as a header 2 or a header 1, right? So I want this paragraph, okay, to immediately be after this header, right? What can you expect from Zumba classes, right? And then this is basically how we find different types of feature snippet to go after. Another feature snippet that we can go after, it's actually list. So for example, you can see this is a list, right? Yeah, so you can see Zumba, step, toning, and things like that. So what we want to see is we want to see how the competitors are structuring this up. So you can see they have header 1s as classes, and then all of the header 3s they are showing up, right? All this are actually all header 3s, right? And the header 3s are basically different types of yoga, different types of Zumba. So if I want to rank, if I want to go after this feature snippet, what I would do, it's again, I just want to give specific instructions, right? So I will list down, for example, this is an example, right? So I'm going to remove this. Okay, let's just say this time I'm going after a snippet like this. What I want to do is I basically want to have classes, okay, Zumba classes, okay, and let's take a look. They have it as their header 1, right? So I can have it as a header 1 and only if it makes sense, right? If it's not making sense, like for example, in this case, if this is a product page for Zumba classes, then obviously Zumba classes will be the header 1 already, right? So what I can do is I can have like Zumba class type 1, right? Okay, and then I can have type 2, type 3, type 4, for example. Type 1, type 2, type 3, type 4, okay? And I can list down as a header 3, or I can list down all of them as header 2s, right? So what I want to do is then I want to be sure that this is paragraph. Paragraph here or content here. Okay, and this content should be in body text, right? But you can see this is basically mimicking the behavior of how this is structured, right? Classes is header 1, and then H3, 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 H3. Okay, and some of the times what you can do is you can also just take a look at the words here. So you can see all of them are 2 words. So you can have like, let's say for example, maximum 2 to 3 words. Okay, and why? Is because you can see all of them are very, very short in number of words, right? So that is how you basically have a content outline that can target all the featured snippets that you have seen earlier on, okay? So yeah, and that will also help you to come up with the flow of the content, the headers and the flow of the content. Now you can see over here, come up with the headers and flow of the content. The reason why we have this here is because, like I mentioned, of all the things that you have already done up here, right? It will give you an idea of what your users are searching for, right? So for example, in this case, this will be, let's say for example, Zumba classes, right? So what I want to have, it will probably be, if I have different types of Zumba classes, I shouldn't have deleted, but Zumba class type 1, for example, right? And then I have, let's say I have 4 different types of Zumba classes. Okay, if I don't, it's fine. Okay, but Zumba class, and I can have all of them as header 2s. Okay, and then what else do I, it's, let's say for example, it's Zumba's benefit for weight loss. Okay, because it seems like a lot of people are asking the question of, is this really good for weight loss and things like that, right? And so I can have this under as a header 2 as well. Okay, and what else? And you can take a look at, some of the questions that people are asking, right? Can you do this as a beginner, right? And you can say, let's say, for example, let's say, this is a beginner's class, for example. You can have this as a beginner's class. If you do have, and again, I don't have one, I'm not running a Zumba class, but I'm just showing you some example, right? And you're basically going to come out the flow and headers. And by going through all this, it will allow you to understand what users actually want. And this allows you to come up with a flow that is more natural. Okay, and you can take a look at, let's say, for example, some of the headers here, right? Zumba workout. So in this case, all of them are kind of the same thing, right? But let's say, for example, if your FAQ here, good for losing weight, we have already answered this within this section here. Okay, like benefit for weight loss. And what you can do is you can also come up with a FAQ section. Okay, and then your FAQ section could have the questions here. Where is it? Okay, and you can have your FAQ section here. Okay, and your FAQ section can be a header 2, and then the rest of these can be header 3s, right? And then I'm going to delete these. Or you can even structure it in such a way that, let's say, Zumba class types are available, right? Let's say, for example, if I'm creating this page is to sell my Zumba classes, right? Available, okay. I can have this as a header 2, and I can have all of this as a header 3, right? So these are all the class types that I have available: 1, 2, 3, 4, and then this will be my header 2. And then if there's any other section that it's beneficial, I have this in here, right? Or let's say, for example, if my company now it's Pure Fitness, right? So why Pure Fitness Zumba, right? And I can say, like, earlier on, like I mentioned, the copy of, like, it's not boring, it's fun, and that's where you can think of, like, classes are not only fun, can lose weight and increase flexibility and tone muscles, right? Right, so you can include all of this in here within your copy, right? And this can be my header 2, right? So this is for like a kind of like a product or landing page type of content. But if, let's say, it's an informational type of content, then you want to, basically do this same thing that I did earlier. This should give you an idea, right? So again, for product type or service type of landing page, conclusion and summary paragraph is usually not very applicable, right? So you can exclude this. But if it's, let's say, for example, an information type of content, then you want to include a summary paragraph, summarize everything that was discussed here. You can include a section to talk about, let's say, if this was an informational type of content about what is Zumba, right? Then I can include a section just to talk about Zumba classes that's offered by Pure Fitness, and link to talk about Zumba classes by Pure Fitness, which is the brand, and then link to the Zumba class page, for example, right? And then a call to action basically is like, sign up now and things like that, right? But find the call to action that works for you. Now, in some cases, if, let's say, you are using a lot of references, citations, and sources, you can also have a section that includes all the citations, basically all the research that you have done. You can include them in here just to give more authority and more trustworthiness, to show people that you have actually researched and these are all the sources, right? So yeah, I hope this video is not too long, but this is a really, really in-depth video of how you can come up with a content outline, from researching to understanding what your users are looking for to then coming up with the actual outline itself. So you can see this framework is the framework that we have used. It's done really, really well. And this is not the framework that we are using. Maybe when you see this video, this exact framework will not be the same, but the idea of it will still be the same. But in terms of what is new, what things that we have found out may be included, some of things that And it's not really that effective anymore. We would have taken out, but this is a really, really good framework for you to get started on. And this has really helped us to, basically create content that gets a lot of traffic, and essentially not wasting all the budget, all the time, all the resources that we spent into, spending money to write or hire writers, spending time to write the actual content itself. Right. So hopefully this is really useful. If you know of anybody that needs this kind of level of content outline, if you find anybody that, has been creating content but just doesn't get the traction that they want, this will actually help them a lot. So you can feel free to share this with them. And all of this is broken down into all the individual steps. Right. So that's all for this video. If you do like what you see, please like, subscribe, and share it with anybody that you think it's helpful to use this framework. All right, that's all. Thanks for watching.